Good morning, dear Sangha. Today, October 26, the year 2023. This is the first Dharma talk of our rain retreat. This rain retreat, we will study about ethics, what Buddhist contribution to the global ethics. I think yesterday in all three Hamlets we listened to the Dharma talk of Thay. Today we have another Dharma talk. And Sunday we have another Dharma talk. So in these 3 months we will have this kind of Dharma festival. At least 3 Dharma talks a week for 3 months. It's a very good length of time for us to develop a new habit of stopping, of slowing down, of arriving. October 7th, in the morning, we were driving in Bethlehem to arrive at the venue for our Day of Mindfulness for the Palestinians. That day I supposed to give a talk, and so in the morning I did not check my phone, so I knew nothing. And as we were driving, I heard very loud explosions, and I have no clue what it was. And so our brother, because we were driving in a small car, 2 brothers in the front and 2 sisters in the back. And so one brother in the front turned around and asked me, should we cancel the Day of Mindfulness? And I was a bit surprised because I did not know what happened. And so I say, well, let's arrive at the venue to see. I say that so that he can concentrate on his driving, and so when we arrive, then he can explain to me why he wanted to cancel the Day of Mindfulness. And so when we arrive, the security guard of the place, of the venue, clearly we can tell that he was very, very anxious. And he asked, why do you come here? And we say, well, we booked this place so that we can have a day of mindfulness. And he said, I think we have to cancel today. It's not safe. We have to cancel. And so because we were the first one to arrive, and the organizers was not there, so I asked the brothers and sisters to call the organizer to check to see what happened and how do we proceed from here. And after talking back and forth, the organizers told us that the parents, they have to pick up their children from school. Because the school will close, so the parents have to pick up the children. And so the parents could not go to a day of mindfulness. And so we have to cancel. And everybody should go home and stay indoor. And that's how I learned that the war broke out. That is a lot of rockets firing from Gaza into Israel. When I heard of the news of the war, of the attack, my body reacted a bit different than the brothers and sisters. I grew up in Vietnam, a country with many wars, civil war, and also wars with the north of our neighbors. When I was 7, Saigon collapsed, and the North communists took over the South. So I heard gunfire, I heard bombings, and so my body kind of a bit tense because it wake up that memories in my body. But for other brothers and sisters, they grew up in the countries that they never hear bombs or gunfire. And so it's a bit overwhelming for them. And for me, sitting in the car, going back to one of the lay person's house, I thought of the disruption of the day, that it will not be normal because of what just happened. Children have to go home, parents have to stay home and not going to work. And when we're supposed to fly home on the 9th of October, but there was no flights. And so we stayed for a few more days until 4 or 5 days later, we were able to book our flights and flew home. So when we landed in Paris, one of the brothers, he just wept. He just cried. And so we all stopped because we just exited the airplane and we waited for him to calm down. It's a long flight. And I was very tired. And so it took some time for him to calm down. And then he explained that it is so peaceful here. That seems that we live in a very totally different world of where we just came from. And then after that, he wrote a very beautiful article of his aspiration to practice, to cultivate peace, because we need a lot of peace in this world. And so to have a normal day like today, it seems like it's so normal, like any other day. But what I just went through with 3 other siblings, with 3 other monastics, it constantly reminds me of how possible our life is with this normalcy. And so we should celebrate normalcy of the day like today. Everything's so normal that we can proceed, we can continue of what we plan to do for today, and we can have a whole day happen as we plan. There's nothing to really disrupt our day of mindfulness. And this is how we call it a day of mindfulness. And when we are together, we generate this collective energy of mindfulness so that we can really dwell peacefully in our body, in our mind. And so together, collectively, we can generate this collective energy of mindfulness, of healing, of peace, so that we can send to the Middle East and elsewhere, in Europe also, with the conflicts and war. It is so normal that it can take us away from our step, from our breathing, of our daily worries, of our daily concern, of all the things. But luckily we have the practice of walking meditation to help us to arrive. So after we stay a few more days in Israel, because we could not fly it, and the local Sangha asked us to sit with them. It's just 2 days after October 7th, so October 9th, in the evening, we sat with the local Sangha. First we did the deep relaxation, and then we did the slow walking. And so I gave instruction of how to walk, to shift our attention to the footstep, aware of the weight of the body when we shift our left foot and our right foot. So totally we focus our attention to this footstep and bring our mind back to our footstep every single time that our mind run away. Because the people, when they came, clearly, they look so worried, so stressed. And so sad. Their face all look so sad. And so with that slow walking 3 rounds around the room, and then we sat down and we share, we listen, we share with each other. And one friend shared that when she arrives, she's so worried and so tired that her mind is racing for the last 2 days. With all the news, that she could not sleep. But then she said that the walking, that slow walking, one breath, one step, really, really helped her to relax her body and her mind. And she said for the last 2 days, this is the first time that I can stop my mind. And then it runs again, but then I'm able to stop it, to bring it back again. So we have all the tools that we need for us to take care of ourselves when we most need it. These tools to help ourselves. When we do the walking meditation in our head, we have a storage of many video clips that automatically runs. We don't even press the button play, but it automatically plays by itself. One clip after another. And some clips can be as old as 30 or 40 years ago. Or as fresh as just as yesterday. And these clips will play non-stop, day and night. And so when we do walking meditation, if we walk with our head, then our feet are totally separate from our body. The feet walk themselves, and the head have different direction to go. So it's not really totally together. Yeah, every 15 minutes we have a bell. And to check with our translation team to see it's okay. I'm not too fast. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So when we train ourselves with the practice of mindfulness, we will be able to walk, and our feet will follow our head. And so whenever there is a story from that video clip surface, we bring the light of mindfulness to shine on it. And so it's like a shadow following you when a sunny day, you walk in the field or you walk around the Hamlet, your shadow will follow you wherever you go if there is a sun. And so our energy of mindfulness is that shadow. The mind consciousness is that shadow. It will follow the store consciousness, which is alaya consciousness. And then when it's able to follow, like shadow following us, then we will be able to walk in freedom and to let go of all the stories and all the chatters in our head that hijack us away from our body. And it takes some training. That's how yesterday Thầy said, when we come here for 3 months, we will not have course after course, but we will have a lot of time to practice. And this is how we designed our schedule. That we will have sitting, we will have eating, we will have walking, we have deep relaxation, we have sharing, we have working. So whole day, continuously, we will train ourselves to come back, to bring our mind back to our body, so that our feet and our brain will go together. In the past, when Thầy was around, it would be very strict that we would not talk and walk at the same time, because that's how we divert our attention. And we not wholeheartedly do anything, one thing at a time. And so slowly we are losing this practice. I caught myself many times a day, especially in the afternoon or in the evening when I'm tired. I don't catch my mind. But in the morning I really try my best to practice not talking and walking at the same time. Because in this rain retreat, each one of us is a refuge, is a source of refuge for others and for the whole Sangha. So every one of us, if we can come back and be at home in our body and mind, needless to say, we can imagine how concentrate and how mindful the Sangha is. And so when the short-term friends come next week, they will find that refuge right away. And so each one of us, we contribute our part to a day of mindfulness by contributing our energy of mindfulness. That's how we call it a day of mindfulness. We don't call it a day of gathering. It's very different. I like to continue a bit what Sister Chân Đức shared on Sunday. She talked about the mind, the speech and the action. And so let's take a look at the mind, see how we can focus our minds in this 3-month rain retreat. So in Buddhism, we talk about the 3 poisons of the mind. They are hatred, greed, yes, and ignorance. So let's take a look at anger or hatred. The Buddha used the image of a cobra lying in the sila of your house. That whenever you go in and out of the house, if you're not careful, the cobra can drop, can fall down, and it can start at you, or it can attack you if it feels threatened. And it's in the house. You don't know when it will wake up. So when you come in and out of the house, you have to keep in mind that there's a cobra up there in the ceiling. So our anger is just like that cobra. We don't really know when it will wake up. In a normal day like today, we look like we are very peaceful, we are very calm. Or just like October 7th. Everything very normal in the morning until like 8 o'clock. We heard the first explosion. We all have the seed of anger in us. And we all experience how explosive it is or how destructive it is. The Buddha also said, when anger manifests, it's like a fire. So we did so many deeds, so many good deeds. But when anger manifests, it can burn down the whole forest. It can burn down everything on its path. And when we live with our families, or when we live in a Sangha, we live with other people, or when we work with other people, we also experience that. We may did many good deeds, many good actions, but when we are not able to manage our anger, then people will remember that unpleasant feeling that we cause because out of our anger. And so it would take 4 or 5 good actions to overcome that negative feeling when we cause others suffering. So it may take many good actions to reverse and that one action that we were not able to manage our anger or our frustration. And so anger, it comes with hatred. Many friends ask me what is my most impression of the trip to Middle East. I have to say that the day that we have the activities together for both Israelis and Palestinians in the afternoon, actually the Israeli Sangha organized that afternoon activity with the Palestinians. And so many friends from Tel Aviv, from Jerusalem and other parts of Israel drove to West Bank. And I think that park is somewhere near Nablus, in the north of West Bank. And so we met Isa as one Palestinian friend who is handicapped because he was shot in the year 2000. And so he was not able to walk. So he sits on a wheelchair. So they organized that afternoon so that we can drive to the valley. Where it's very beautiful in spring, with stream water coming out from the mountain, and flowers will bloom in spring. It's a very, very, very beautiful place to go for picnic. And so we drove there. We saw many settlers, many Israeli settlers, and their family to have picnic. And also we have some of the people, some Palestinian people also having picnic, having outing day in that valley. What really, really took me by surprise, that when I got out of the car, I saw one settler who carried his baby. And on his shoulder, there's a machine gun. And so Isa is a Palestinian man. He explained to us what is the situation. And so he explained, about the situation and things like that. And then someone in the group asked him, "Do you hate these people, these settlers?" He said, "No, I don't hate them. I don't hate people. I need to work on the system that sent the people here, not the people. So I need to campaign with the international community to bring the awareness about this." And his whole manner, his manners, his tone of voice, the surprising thing is, when somebody asked him that question, one settler just passing by, and when he heard the question, "Do you hate these people?" he stopped and he listened, right behind Isa's back. And so Isa didn't know that there's a person behind his back listening to him. And so we sat facing him and we listened to him. And he shared that. And I can really feel that he's really, really at home in his body. He's really, really speaking what is in his heart. His oneness at that moment is very clear to me, and it impressed me greatly. That group, a whole group of Israelis and Palestinians, they went to Plum Village in the year 2003 to have retreat with Thầy. And I think he learned from that retreat to work on his anger, to transform his anger. And indeed, Thầy said, human is not our enemy. The real enemy is our hatred, our ignorance. But anger is a source of energy that we can cultivate and we can harness. Thầy used to say, "I'm angry of how angry I am of the situation in Vietnam, of the war in Vietnam." He say he is angry of his anger. But the anger that he's talking about is the anger that he focused and he transformed that anger into something else. That is, he had this volition to work for peace. So I like to use the image of a fire. Anger can be a fire, that it can burn out everything. But if we use anger, we can use the image of a charcoal. At first, when it burns very, very strongly. But after a while, the charcoal will calm down. And you can cook, we can roast, we can bake in the charcoal. And so anger, if we can practice to transform it, to discipline it, it can be a source of energy for us, to move us forward. It's a source of energy that is propel us to work for, to fight for what is we believe, that it can break down the barrier or break down the misunderstanding. We all have the seeds of anger in us. And depend on our practice, we can harness this source of energy into something that is very constructive. So in Buddhism, we also talk about 4 kinds of nutriment. The volition is the 3rd kind of nutriment. And so volition is like that charcoal. It keeps that warm, that fire, but it's very, very calm. And that heat that can cook. So volition is that kind of source of energy that we need in order to fight or to work for whatever reason or whatever cause we believe in. As soon as we got back to New Hamlet, I greeted Sư Chân Không. And I share a little bit about the journey and about the retreats in Middle East. She listened. And to the end, she looked at me, she said, "Wow, we should organize more trips like that to Israel and Palestine, because that's where they need the most." And I could not disagree with her about that. Yeah, I see how thirsty people are for the practice of mindfulness, of how to manage the anger, how to take care of our anger. And anger is something that we think that it's not manifesting. So we sometimes, at least myself, I underestimate my anger. And many times, it's exploded, and I was very regret. And so in a normal day like today, when we have plenty of opportunities to practice, to walk, actually walking meditation is the best way to calm ourselves and to harness that energy of anger into something useful. So in a normal way of response out of anger, it can be very destructive or it can be very damaging. But that anger, if we know how to harness it, it can come out as a very loving response. So it's very much about our Kung Fu. In Chinese, we call Kung Fu. That's mean our daily practice. And so that's how Thầy emphasizes a lot of daily meditation. And so to have 3 months and doing this every day is really a great gift to ourselves, so that we can harness this energy of hatred, of anger, of disappointment, of resentment in us. It's not that when we feel the anger arises in us, and then we start doing the walking or we start doing the sitting. But in a very normal day like today, we do this. So that when it manifests, we can manage it. We can calm ourselves down. And we can be with it until it passes. And every week, I think every week we have the five mindfulness training discussion in the group. So you are encouraged to participate because the 5 mindfulness training is very rich. Every time we have the sharing about the 5 trainings, because each one of us we practice in our own life, in our own situation, and we have our own insight. And so when we come together, we discuss, we learn so much from each other. I always enjoy the presentation of the 5 trainings and the sharing of the 5 trainings, the group discussion, because I learn so much. We talk about greed. The many friends from South America Sangat, they send us message asking us to revise the second training by adding into the second training corruption into it, because it is a pandemic, it is a epidemic in South America. That's how they describe, and they ask us to revise the second training. But corruption is not only in South America, it's everywhere. I grew up in Vietnam, a communist country. In theory, it sounds very beautiful. You know, we all live together. We don't have our own possession, everything together. And then I see how corrupted the officials are. You know, we have such a beautiful theory, but in reality, humans, with their nature of hatred, of greed, of ignorance, how can we realize that theory when we say that everything will be communal, everything that we use together, we build together? But how corrupted they are when all the money go into their own pocket. And if people talk about their corruption, they will imprison these people. And so we live in suppression, we live in oppression. And I can see really greed that drives people, you know, from their good nature. Or if you have that position and you have that opportunity to become rich, why don't you take it? So I have an uncle who is ranger. That means that he needs to protect the forest. And so all the very corrupted rangers would have a deal with the plumbers. So cut out the timber, to use the timber, and so they can have money. And they can build huge house, and they can have cars and everything. But my uncle, when I visited him in 2005, the first trip to Vietnam with Thay, his first trip to return to Vietnam, and I have the chance to visit my family in Vietnam. And he lived in a very, very dilapidated house that his sons have to go to his friends to sleep so that I can sleep in his bed. And he asked me about my monastic life, and then I asked him about his life, how his life, and he said, materially I'm very poor because the salary that I receive is not enough for me to support my family. But every night when I go to bed, I sleep soundly because I don't have any regret, I don't have any shame that I take away public property and put it into my own pocket. So I choose to live poor, so I have peace of mind. When he shared that, I feel very proud that I have an uncle like that. All the poverty, immigration, immigrants from everywhere, from South America, from Europe. In Europe, people from all other parts of try to get into Europe, or from South America to North America, because it's a widespread of corruption in these countries, and people really, really suffer. In early spring this year, we went to South America. Actually, there's two groups went to South America. One group from Deer Park and one group from Plum Village. And so when we arrive in Argentina, any friends here from Argentina? We used to have few friends from Argentina. The inflation is more than 100%. And so our lay friends gave us some money for food, but we ran out of money quickly. Because the inflation is like more than 100%. And people really, really suffer from the collapsed healthcare system of the pandemic. And economically, they're not doing very well. And so all the anger, all the frustration pouring out in these protests on the streets. And they say that all the money is going to the pocket of some people. And so the public funding, the public healthcare, public school is on the verge of collapse. And we can really see greed. That this is really, really destroying lives of so many people. Same thing in Vietnam. A communist country. The gap between the rich and the poor is so huge that people barely have enough to eat every day. And so when I grew up in Vietnam, and the official, it's just after the collapse of Saigon in 1975, the official would come to my house because our families live in Saigon, Ho Chi Minh City, in the first district, which is very center of the city. And they want to take away our house out of greed. And so they persuaded my mother to move to the economic zone, which is uncultivated, undeveloped region in the plateau of Vietnam, in the high mountain. And so they push you there and take away your property. And many people perish. They could not survive, because of malaria, of dengue fever, because it's totally uncultivated. But somehow, there's one official, she secretly told my mom, doesn't matter how many times they push you or persuade you, don't move. If you move, your children will die. Because I have 4 brothers. They were teenagers. I was 7. My younger sister was 5. And my father somewhere, we did not know where he was. And much later, we discovered that he escaped, and he was in U.S. So at such a young age, I already learned about greed. And I reflect on myself. It's a very nature of us to accumulate, to have more. I can say I grew up in a country with so many wars. So in my blood, there is the habit of accumulating. We have to save. So that the other day when we don't have enough, then we have something to eat. It's so ingrained in us. And it manifests in the habit of working. But luckily I learned about the Dharma. And as a monastic, we have the practice we call knowing enough and having a few desire. Because if we have too many desire, we will pursue our desire. And so we will not have time for ourselves. And so knowing enough, how enough is enough, it's very difficult. So knowing enough is really a practice, a lifelong practice. So for us, we have what we call a bed box. A bed that we sleep on, and underneath is our belonging. So we call it a bed box. Some of you in the Lunar New Year, if you stay here, you can visit our room and you will see. And so every year, we have to change room. That means we take everything out of that bed box, do inventory, to see what you really need. And if you don't need, you let go. And so we have a little market we call letting go market. I think some of you arrived early, you witnessed it. So at the beginning, the first few years when I ordained, my bed box always full, overflow. Because I need this, I need that, But with years, it's become less and less. And so the practice of changing room is really a practice of letting go. We really see what we need, and if we don't need, we let go, we share with others. So the first few years, I did not like to move because, it's so many things, you have to take everything out and then move into another room. But then gradually I understand this is really the practice to confront my greed. And even though we have very few possessions, but we still need to let go. And without letting go of this material possession, if we cannot let go, if I cannot let go, then for sure there's many things in my mind I cannot let go. And so now I really understand this practice of changing room. And after changing room is changing the Hamlet. After 4, 5 years in this Hamlet, it's time for you to move. And when you move, now the luggage for the airplanes is only 23 kilos. So basically you have to let go again, many things, so that it can fit into that luggage and you move to another Hamlet. And then for us, it's a lifelong practice. And I see that with this practice of changing and letting go, I confront my greed every year. And gradually, I learn to know how much I need and how much I want. And my want always bigger than my need. And I'm still practicing. I'm sharing this with you so that you can kind of do the inventory. I know many of you live very simply, but there's still things for us to let go. And if material possession we can let go, then it's a bit easy for us to let go what is in our mind. The last one is the ignorant. The ignorant here for me is very little or no awareness of myself. When I ordain, I have no awareness of myself. I don't know what is my strength and what is my weakness. I have no idea. And so we have the shining light practice, and the Sangha will shine lines on me and help me to see. But that unawareness of oneself is really an obstacle for myself to live with people and to perceive things. One day I was having breakfast with many other sisters, and in that table I have one elder sister, and I have very high expectation of her. I thought she should be like this, she should be like that, because she's very senior. And in my very judging mind, she's a newly ordained novice. And so that morning when I was having breakfast with her, she sat in front of me, and she was really eating her breakfast. She did not think about anything, really enjoy her breakfast, and very relaxed and free. But me, she's eating too fast. She's eating too much. And I really tormented myself, with my judgment, with my expectation of her. And because of the silence of the hall, of the eating, by the end of the meal, I realized that I'm judging too much. That she had no problem whatsoever with whatever I expect of her. It's only me that I really trouble myself with my judgment and my expectation. And she had not been affected at all, even though I was sitting in front of her. And for the first time, I think that for the first time that I have that little awareness of myself, I call it my first little awakening of myself, that I can see myself, my mind, how I judge people. And so this year I also have a chance to go home to see my family. And on the day that I flew back to France, my sister and my brother-in-law drove me to the airport. And so my brother-in-law, he said that, oh, you have been giving retreats and Dharma talks for so many years. So, in all the good talks that you gave, give me the best one. I was sitting in the back of the car when I heard him asking me that. Very naturally, I respond. I say, I don't think I have any good Dharma talks to share right now. I don't recall having any good Dharma talks. Because after I gave a talk, I let go. I don't remember. So in so many years, and now I don't remember if I ever give any good talk. And so that's the end. But hearing that question, it reminded me of my way of asking and interacting with other people when I first ordained. It's very much similar like that. It means that I have no awareness of myself and of other people, their feelings. I was very arrogant, actually. But I think the mindfulness practice is there. After many years, it's there. And so when I hear that question, I thought maybe his intention is not that demanding. Maybe there's not a way for him to say it in a better way. Feel like that I want to talk, that can help me to talk. So with that reasoning, I can kind of have sympathy for him and not judge him that he's very arrogant when he asks that question. So I really see that the daily mindfulness is really kicks in the moments like that. I guess when I was like maybe 2 or 3 years ordained, or maybe a little bit later, 7, 8 years, and he asked me that question, I would really strongly react it. But now I can really listen and give myself a pause. I don't need to respond right away, but I give that pause and find ways to respond so that I don't hurt him or react angrily, to that kind of request. And when we see, like yesterday in the Dharma talk, they said that the suffering and the root of suffering, when we look at our society, the world that we are living right now, we have a very different suffering of the past, of Thay's time, or of the previous generations, or many generations before. So the suffering is very different. And so the ignorant here is mean that the lack of understanding of interconnectedness of everything. So this morning we have breakfast. There's many items in the breakfast. And if we eat, we see that many things that have been brought on to our table, breakfast table, from many places, from many people, and so that we can have breakfast. all the items of the breakfast. And we can really see how connected we are with many other conditions, environment, and people. This talk, this sharing is from that breakfast. So without that breakfast, it will not be a Dharma talk. And so this Dharma talk is not mine, but it's come from many sources. And so we can really see how intricate we are, how we relate to each other, how connected we are in this world. With the mindfulness and concentration, we can really see that we cannot be ourselves without all the supporting conditions. And so to keep this awareness alive, slowly we can carve out that ignorance. In India, in Mumbai, around Mumbai area, they have very beautiful caves, many caves. The famous one is the Ajanta and Ellora. If you have a chance to visit India, you should visit this cave, because it's a rock mountain. And so the monks of the past, they carve the rocks out and turn it into monastery in the mountain, without any furniture, anything. It's everything from rocks. So they carve the rocks. I visited, and I really see how much work they did to carve out all the rocks. And they carve the rocks into Buddha statue, Buddha altar, their bed, everything rocks, everything made from rocks. And that's the work of many generations to turn that mountain area into a monastery. And so the daily mindfulness practice, to shine that light on our lack of understanding, our lack of awareness of interbeing nature of everything that is. And then so that we can live our life with more appreciation, with more happiness, with more awareness. We also have a chance to go to the Dead Sea. It's a very, I guess we would say, unique experience. When I said that I would swim in the Dead Sea, the locals, they laughed, but they did not say anything. They wanted me to have that experience, so we went. And it doesn't matter how much I try to swim, I float. I just floated. Because the salinity in the water is so high that basically you just float. Without any effort. And I actually slept. I was floating. I slept, I don't know for how long, but then I drifted to the shore, and that's how I woke up. It is so salty that it gets into your eyes. You have to get out of the water and rinse your eyes. Or it gets into your nose or your mouth. It said it's 10 times saltier than the seawater. So, in our Sangha, the Sangha is also like that salinity of the Dead Sea. Because in the Sangha, there's so many practitioners, and their practice very steady and solid. And so together, we are like Dead Sea. We keep everybody afloat with our collective energy of practice. So it doesn't matter how much we suffer when we come as an individual, But when we put ourselves in this Sangha, in the community, the collective energy of practice will keep us afloat, right? Even though we still suffer. But knowing that there is space, there is a group of people holding us, it's a very reassuring to know and to treasure. And so each one of us, we add our own salt into the pool of the Sangha. And so together it becomes very salty. And without any effort, we just float, right? So when we come here, we are together. It takes much less effort for us to practice than when we are at home alone, doing our own practice. We must have a very disciplined or very strong determination to practice at home. Then we can keep to our own schedule and practice it. But here with the Sangha schedule, we just float like everybody else. And so our job is adding that salt into the water. And so all together we can float. And so we don't drown in our own suffering. And so I hope that you all enjoy your day of mindfulness and generating this collective energy so that we all can benefit from it. And so we can send this energy to Middle East, elsewhere, when people suffer from conflicts and wars. This is the best we can do.